It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of October 17th, 1997. We got 6 movies to look at today, so let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is the slasher film, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Even though this technically came out around Halloween, but I digress. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Kevin Williamson's follow-up after he wrote Scream, which was the big breakout hit of '96, and this film was also a very big success too. Maybe not on the levels of Scream, but it did become a #1 hit. It was the #1 hit at the box office for 3 consecutive weeks. It grossed over $125 million worldwide on a budget of $17 million. It was seen as a big hit, and it helped to, along with Scream, to revitalize the slasher genre in the 1990s. Even though Williamson's concept for this entire movie was basically to make a straightforward 1980s era slasher film, and really, if you like those movies, you'd probably like this one as well, because it's literally just that. I mean, it's literally that kind of a movie. 4 people, they're stalked by this hook-wielding killer 1 year ago after covering up the car accident where they killed him. And you can kind of see where everything is going here. This one draws inspiration from the urban legend of the Hook and also the slasher films of the 80s, Prom Night, House on Sorority Row, the big examples here. This does not have the satirical edge that Scream does, even though there's elements in here where you kind of think that they're kind of going to be funny about it, but you don't really know for sure. Like, the whole thing about them is like that scene in the trailer where Freddie Prinze Jr. is just like, I got a letter, and Ryan Felipe's just like, I got hit by a car. Sarah Michelle Gellar's just like, I got my hair cut off. Like, who is this killer, and how the hell does he get inside this Sarah Michelle Gellar's house and cut her hair like that without anybody even noticing that she's even there? It's just like, it's a weird movie. Like, it's not as good as Scream, the original Scream, but in a way I kind of admire it. But other than that, though, the kills in this movie aren't even really all that strong in here. I mean, as you watch along, you can kind of figure out where it's going to go. It doesn't really have a whole lot there that makes it anything too memorable and all that much. But didn't matter, because the film was a big success and eventually led to a sequel that came out literally a year afterward, which is absolutely horrible. It's nowhere near as memorable as this film is, and yeah, and thus a franchise eventually came from this. And really, I think, but even though Kevin Williamson himself even said that this was intended specifically for a one-film movie, but of course, that's not going to stop the studio from making more than one film. So they basically told him, make another one for us, and he later returned. He didn't even return to write the second film. He basically went on to work on Scream 2, which would come out in a couple months after this film did. And yeah, you can definitely tell that his presence in the second film was clearly missing. And yeah, the film overall it's a mixed bag. I mean, it's not a great film overall. It certainly doesn't compare to Scream, but it's not a terrible movie either. It's a film that's just kind of like, it's there. It's nothing too exciting, nothing too crazy. It's there, and it's not really all that memorable. I mean, at least in my opinion, it really isn't all that memorable, but it certainly pales in comparison to Scream, and it just, to me personally, it just didn't work for me. I mean, I know a lot of people really like it, and it did lead to another era of slasher movies that still continues to this very day, but that's just what it is. I mean, the film was a big hit, and I really don't have anything else to say about this one. I Know What You Did Last Summer, so let's go ahead and move on to a much better horror-type film that came out this particular weekend. Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino as the devil in The Devil's Advocate. It's Al Pacino as the devil. I mean, that's all you really need to sell this movie on, and pretty much that's the main reason why this movie is so damn memorable, because Al Pacino as the devil is just pitch perfect casting, and you see that he's given it his all in this movie. In fact, everybody in this movie is giving it their all. I mean, Keanu Reeves is very good in here, so Charlize Theron, directed by Taylor Hackford, co-written by Tony Gilroy. The cast also includes Jeffrey Jones, Judith Ivey, Connie Nielsen, Craig T. Nelson, Heather Matarazzo, Delroy Lindo's in here as well. Like, there's a really good cast in here and a really good concept that just works because specifically of Al Pacino. I mean, I just think that nobody else could have played this role better in this particular film. And Keanu Reeves decided on this film instead of starring in Speed 2, despite having a potentially $11 million payday on that film, which, you know what? Good for him, man. He made the right choice. Even though I really like Speed 2 as a guilty pleasure film, he made the right call on this film because he picked a real winner of a film, and mostly it was because of the fact that he has Al Pacino as his co-star, and it's just a really good movie. It's a really ambitious film with a lot of good thrilling moments, some good horrifying moments as well. I like a mix. It's I think Roger even says it best. It's like kind of a mix between, John Grisham and The Exorcist, and you can definitely tell the concepts in there. Not as strict as The Exorcist is, but it's a really good movie. I don't think I need to say too much more about this film. Watch it just for Al Pacino alone as the devil. He is having the time of his life with this film, and it's a great movie. It's a really, really great film. I can't recommend this one enough. Devil's Advocate, check it out. Let's go on to the next movie here, which in some cases could be seen as a horror movie, but in other cases it's a comedy. It's Rowan Atkinson starring as Mr. Bean in Bean. Of course, if you don't know who Mr. Bean is basically a silent comedian that most of his dialogue that he has is just noises that come out of his mouth. Once in a while he'll talk, but Rowan Atkinson's basically doing it through, noises and all that type of stuff, and it's really funny in shorts. And Mr. Bean was very popular overseas, and it took a long time for him to get over to America to eventually become famous here. This thing has been in development for nearly 7 years. I mean, this was first announced as a movie by Fox in 1991 because they took 2 shorts from the TV series. They took 2 sketches and made them into short films. Mr. Bean Takes an Exam and Mr. Bean Goes to a Premiere, which you can find online. They recently just put both of them on there not too long ago, and they're easy to find on there. And that was the testing ground to see if this Mr. Bean could make it as a film. And the movie itself is really funny, and I like how this movie has 2 different versions. Like, the trailers for the international film sell it as literally the ultimate disaster movie, and you can see in the film, if you've seen it, why that is. And it's interesting because the North American version actually includes an additional scene where they take one of the most iconic Mr. Bean moments, where he gets his head stuck inside of a turkey from the Christmas episode, and they put it in this movie. And according to Atkinson, the different scenes were the result of very different reactions from the North American and international audiences in test screenings. So it's very interesting to see these 2 different elements to this film, from the American version and the international version. I grew up with the one from America, and I mean, it's a funny movie, man. It's a really good film, and you got a great cast around this character. Peter McNichol from Ally McBeal, Pamela Reed, Burt Reynolds is in here, Larry Drake, Sandra Oh, Johnny Galecki, Andrew Lawrence, Peter Capaldi from Doctor Who. Just a really good cast, and the comedy in here is so funny. Like, I can't remember. It's like I forgot how funny this movie can really be, and there's moments in here that are still very funny after all these years. I mean, the way he handles the Mona Lisa, the Whistler's mother picture after he sneezes on it. That's great stuff. I mean, the scene early on when he's on the airplane, he's trying to get this kid to laugh, and he's getting very sick, and the kid pukes in the what do you call it? The little bag that they give you. I can't remember what it is right now. But and then Bean shows it, and then Bean takes the bag, blows up like a balloon, and puts it over this guy's head, and he just puke all over him. Like, that's a funny way to handle gross out humor like that. And the movie overall is really funny. I will say the last maybe 30 minutes or so do kind of lag a little bit, but it's not a terrible movie by any means. It's still a really funny movie. And I think the second movie, Mr. Bean's Holiday, is actually a far superior film because it kind of fixes all the glitches from the first movie and actually makes for a really good film on that front. But I really like this movie, man. I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was very funny. I thought it was very unique. It's very well done, and this is my introduction to Mr. Bean, and this is my introduction to Rowan Atkinson. I know he was in The Lion King, which I watched before then, but this is the first time I even knew who he was, and I had no idea that he was also this great actor who had also done stuff like Blackadder, and then starring in stuff like Four Weddings and a Funeral, and then later on Love Actually. This is a great movie, man. I love this movie so much. Is mostly for the first hour of the film. The third act kind of drags it a little bit, but at the same time, it's not terrible. But the first hour is just so funny. I think it's more than worth it in the end just to see it. I mean, even if you don't like the Mr. Bean shorts, you should watch this movie, and you'll definitely get some really good laughs out of it. At least in my personal opinion, you do. So, yeah, that is Bean for you. So, with that said, on to the next movie, and that is David Duchovny in Playing God. Of course, this is David Duchovny in his first starring role after achieving success with The X-Files, an opportunity for him to branch out as a movie star, and needless to say, this was not the best successful way to do it. He plays this surgeon who has his medical license revoked after operating under the influences, and Timothy Hutton plays a crime lord who happens upon him in a bar, and where he saves someone's life with an emergency procedure to inflate a collapsed lung. And he hires Sands as his personal physician, patching up his accomplices when they cannot go to a hospital, and tending to the crime boss and his girlfriend, played in this movie by Angelina Jolie. And Jolie and Duchovny eventually become involved and must face conflicting loyalties to Timothy Hutton's character. And you've seen this type of movie before, and the movie itself, they knew it was bad. Like, this is a film that was delayed several times because they couldn't get a positive reaction from test audiences. There actually was scenes in the trailer that were basically edited out of the final film, and even David Duchovny has gone on to say that it was a mistake because they didn't have a script ready and should have just bailed out when he had the chance. And needless to say, you can kind of see why. If you have all these names in here and you've never seen this movie and you've never even heard of this movie before, because I certainly didn't, but that should probably tell you something right away, that this was not going to be a good film whatsoever. And unfortunately, it's not. It's a film that we've seen done to death so many times already, and it's not an enjoyable film. It's a really lackluster movie, and you can see why it has not had the longevity that it should have. So that's Playing God. Let's go ahead and move on to the next film, and that is Kevin Bacon in Telling Lies in America. Joe Esterhouse's big follow-up after the infamous 1995 of Showgirls and Jade, and it's at least a little better. It's gotten better reviews than those two movies did, so step in the right direction? I don't know for certain. You've got Brad Renfro playing this high school student, an immigrant from Hungary, who's trying to find his way in the world. He meets this radio personality played by Kevin Bacon, takes him under his wing, and now authorities are after him because he's accepting payola from record companies to give their songs airtime. And Bacon's character picks this guy who figures that he'll cheat to win his radio contest, and he realizes he'd be perfect to associate with Bacon's scam. And I mean, like I said, it's a step in the right direction for Joe Esterhouse after the year he had, but this movie doesn't have really a whole lot of memorability to it. You see Maximilian Schell's and also in here, Callista Flockhart, Luke Wilson, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, some notable names in here, but it's a pretty forgettable movie. I watched it once long time ago, and I don't remember too much about it, so, and from what I remember from it, not that great, but could be. I'd have to check it out again just to be sure, but that's pretty much all I know about this one, Telling Lies in America. So let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, Russell Crowe and Salma Hayek in Breaking Up. And if you got a movie with Russell Crowe, who was then coming off of LA Confidential, and Salma Hayek, who was in Desperado, Fools Rush In, and From Dusk Till Dawn, and nobody really remembers it, that's probably not a good sign for this particular movie. This is based off of a stage play by Michael Christopher, the writer of this, and directed by Robert Greenwald, who gave us Xanadu. And after this movie, went on to direct several documentaries about, Uncover the War in Iraq, We Think Afghanistan, Fox, Walmart, The High Cost of Low Price, Unmanned American Drone Wars, Koch Brothers Exposed. He went on to become a serious documentary director after this particular film, and quite frankly, you can kind of see why, because this just wasn't really flying. I mean, you don't really buy into the chemistry between Hayek and Crowe. The movie just feels lifeless. There's nothing really about it that makes it unique or enjoyable, and it just kind of feels like nothing of interest is going on in this movie whatsoever. And you can see why it's very forgettable. It's not that great of a movie. It's a really lackluster film with two actors who should make this material work, and they just really do not. So yeah, that's Breaking Up for you. So with that said, that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. When we meet next time, we have 3 movies, including Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman in the cult classic Gattaca, the Mel Gibson-produced Fairy Tale, A True Story, and Cameron Diaz and Ewan McGregor in A Life Less Ordinary. So 3 movies to look at next time, and we will delve into those on the next episode. So until then, thank you guys for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to see more videos like this. So with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Until then, take care.